Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar where we'll be taking a look at how water market reform will affect you and how you can start preparing for the changes now. My name is Stephen Kennett and I look after the Water Risk Management channel here at 2 Degrees. I'm delighted to welcome our presenters today. Joining us from Business Stream we have Paul Young, Project Manager of their Water Management Division, and we're also joined by Desmond Chindawi, Project Manager for the Alternative Water Division. Today's presentations will last for around 30 to 35 minutes, which will leave us with 10 to 15 minutes for questions at the end. We'll also be running a couple of polls during the webinar, and we'll let you know when these are open. They'll appear on the right-hand side of your screen. During the webinar, you can send in questions for the panelists. Simply use the Q&A box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and then we'll wait until the end before answering as many as we can. As an aside, if you should have any technical issues during the webinar, please use the chat box on the right-hand side to send me a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So without any further delay, I'd like to hand over to Desmond, who'll get us started with today's webinar. So over to you, Desmond.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. Today, I am going to look at. I'm going to start with a brief introduction of who Business Stream are, and what it is that we actually do. We'll talk through a number of things including water efficiency and alternative water sources. I'll then hand over to my colleague Paul, who will discuss water efficiency. First off, to start, who Business Stream are, we are an independent division of Scottish Water. We are fully owned by Scottish Water, but operate at arm's length of Scottish Water. We were formed in 2006, more in preparation for the market opening in terms of retail competition. Currently, we are the largest standalone water retailer in the UK, and we currently hold the largest market share in Scotland. What we do, predominantly we supply water and wastewater services, but in addition to that, we also have our solutions department, which look at various things like alternative water sources and like rainwater harvesting, boreholes, as well as water efficiency services, because it's not just about selling water. Our services are for non-domestic customers, so we're looking at businesses from the small corner shop right to large industrial companies. And our main ethos in terms of Business Stream is customer focused, and we're basically looking at we are led by what customers and organizations want going forward. Market objectives. One of the greatest things about market opening and competition is that there's a greater focus on customers. Services are mainly tailored to serve what customer needs, and one of the main things that actually comes from that is that customers end up having a choice of supplier. At the moment, we have a situation where customers have to actually go to the incumbent, or rather the water companies within their region. There isn't any choice, unlike the energy and gas market, where you actually get to choose. So the opening of the market in 2017 takes us to that similar sort of scenario. When the market opens, you get access to more suppliers, and that in itself actually opens up market forces, and you have keener prices for the customers, where you actually get suppliers actually competing for business. So that's another positive that can actually come out of opening of the market in 2017. That as well, you get better delivery of service. With that, I mean, suppliers, or rather the water suppliers, they are in a position to actually better their service. What happens is if you have got two or three or even more companies competing for supply, they have, other than the price itself, there has to be another reason why a customer would want to actually have your custom, which is better service. And then it is actually for the water companies themselves, it's actually an enabler for innovation, because as the margins drop, you have to suppliers ourselves, which includes business stream, we have to up our game and better be innovative in actually delivering better service to customers. So what's been happening since the idea of market opening and gathering up to 2017, and what customers need to do. First of all, you need to make sure that you have data, and data has to be available. That's not just for the customers, the customers themselves, but for businesses as well. And one of the other things that's happening is, in terms of the market reform, is making sure that that there's a system of automating the switching protocols, such that all water companies have standard levels of service that they adhere to, such that if a customer wants to change suppliers, there are certain time frames in which that is actually done. So that's one of the other things that's actually being prepared at the moment as we are gathering up to 2017. And other things is to make sure that we have a level playing field. So such things as access price rules, those will need to be abolished, so that all water companies have a level playing field. That includes the incumbents and the new entrants to the market. And at the moment, people might ask, is the market open at the moment? Yes, it is, but for starters, there isn't a large margin in it, and it's only open to clean water services. Wastewater services are currently excluded. So as part of market opening and market reform, it is anticipated that the introduction of wastewater services will be included as part of the supply. What customers need to do, customer needs. We've been talking to different customers over the period of time, and some of the main things that actually are coming out from customers, including yourselves who are listening today, we all want to save money. And one of the things, by introducing competition, you've got more suppliers coming in, so you have a choice, and that actually drives down the cost of water itself. As well as competition, as business stream also look at trying to reduce the water use you use as organizations. This is through water efficiency. My colleague Paul is going to take you through some of the things that you can actually start looking at the moment. And ultimately, to reduce your risk, you need to be in a position where you know that you have got a stable water supply that's coming in at a good quality, and to save you time, so that you don't have to worry about water and wastewater issues, and concentrate more on your core business. And basically to be being responsible of sustainability responsibility. I mean, some may ask what has happened so far. One of the things, the bill has been passed through Parliament in June 2018. It went through legislation in 2014 May. Ofwat are in the process of reviewing the cost principles and assessing the price for assessing for the different retailers. Wholesale margins are also being reviewed, which should allow businesses like ourselves and any other new entrants into the market for it to be a cost-effective proposition for different companies to enter the market. In terms of barriers, I'll then hand over to my colleague Paul, who will talk you through the different barriers and the different drivers for market reform and water efficiency as well. I'll come back to you and talk in more detail about alternative water sources.
Okay, thanks, Desmond. Good afternoon, everyone. As Desmond says, I'm Paul Young. I'm the Water Efficiency Project Manager at Business Stream. And I think the purpose of these next few slides is really just to share some of my experience in delivering water efficiency projects with various customers. Obviously there's a broad range of customers represented by yourselves today at this webinar, so it's just to share our experience and how we would potentially look to address water efficiency challenges going forward, and just to raise some awareness of the services that are on offer and things that you can do in the meantime prior to market opening to achieve some valuable water efficiency savings. I think any good water management programme starts with a solid understanding of both the barriers and the drivers behind it, to enable you to make more informed decisions about how you wish to progress with a water efficiency project at your site. I think sort of time and time again, the main barrier to progress in our prior experience is that there's a fundamental lack of data and knowledge that's available with regards to sort of key basics such as your water consumption, if you're in charge of a multi-site portfolio, how the consumption varies across these different sites, are your bills accurate? So a challenge that we look to come in and support our customers on is helping them to really kind of verify their water management data, that they have a sound understanding of their consumption, and they are in a position where they can improve the accuracy of their bills. Because without really understanding that, it's very difficult to then target and prioritise different water efficiency interventions that we'll have a wee chat about later on. Another key barrier is the lack of time. I'm sure many of you today will have an interest in this because you may be responsible, not just for water, but for other environmental, energy, facilities, operational aspects of your site. And it's always the case that it's very hard to devote dedicated time purely to water efficiency when there's competing priorities. So again, we try to sort of position ourselves as an expert consultant to come in and provide both the time as well as the resource and the technical knowledge, because many projects are identified at provisional stage but fall away because perhaps you don't have the time to see it through to completion. Obviously, as the supplier in Scotland, we do a lot of work with NHS and the public sector around water efficiency, and I think a key barrier that we've sort of worked to try and sort of almost overcome in prior years is the health and safety concerns around water management within particularly hospitals and within some public sector types. This is referring to the likes of the development of Legionella and other bacterial infections, which, if water efficiency is implemented incorrectly, you increase the risk of this, and obviously other water quality requirements in relation to water treatment systems and alternative water sources. So we'll probably provide a bit of insight, hopefully today, into what you should be aware of in that if you're coming from a public sector background. And finally, I think another major barrier is the financial constraints that businesses face. Many times we have worked with customers to identify a project and they don't actually have the capital available. So at Business Stream we've developed additional solutions around financing, gain share arrangements, which help the customer to achieve the saving that they want to target in return for a share. And it's being creative with how we can actually identify and then deliver the water efficiency saving. Moving on to the drivers, obviously a key driver for water efficiency now is controlling costs. As the environmental agenda has progressed over the last 10 to 15 years, certainly water has been sort of seen as the poorer cousin to gas and electricity, given the unit costs, the higher unit costs associated with energy. That said, I think there's now more momentum around water efficiency, and if we factor in things like the true cost of hot water, and also fixed cost savings associated with meter right sizing and non-volumetric charges, there's actually a lot of untapped potential, we feel, in the UK market to drive down costs, particularly if you've already looked at energy in some detail and maybe now you've got an interest in developing some strategies around water. Water scarcity is another one. There's obviously been some extreme weather and incidents over the last couple of years. The flooding kind of tells you how the climate aspect is very unpredictable for your business. And if you look at sort of recent figures, like the southeast of England is particularly affected. So water scarcity is on the agenda, and this will feed into sort of corporate strategies for your respective businesses that water efficiency becomes more important. And we try to do our bit to address that by saving water. Again, climate change, just to touch on that, it's also influencing government policy and some of the programmes that are available, and also, particularly again for the public sector, the sort of annual targets around environmental, energy and water performance. That then feeds into annual reporting. In general, many of your sites will look to complete annual reports on the performance of your business. So demonstrating good water efficiency and improvements in that can also add value to your annual reporting. And finally, environmental objectives. Many of you, you may be targeting sort of wider registrations. This could be in relation to environmental management systems, quality management, or for new buildings, it could be BREEAM or the Carbon Trust Standard. Recently, Business Stream were approved as a approved supplier to deliver the Carbon Trust Water Management Standard. So that's something we're working with our customers on at the moment to help you achieve wider environmental objectives by saving water. So looking ahead to the opportunities just now, again, touching on what I said in the previous slide, the first opportunity is to get in control of your water management data, looking at improving the accuracy of your bills, understanding site-specific consumption, flow rates, profiling, developing detailed data so you can start to assess the opportunities available at each site that you deal with. This in turn allows you to reduce consumption. Benchmarking consumption is very important as well. It's something that we have carried out a lot for the existing customers to give them an indication of how well they are performing. This could be in relation to sort of Environment Agency targets, or it could be internal benchmarking. Assessing water use in relation to production, in relation to staff headcount, and coming up with creative ways to try and target where the opportunity lies. In turn, it's important to remember that any water efficiency saving you target will obviously have a resultant carbon saving, particularly when we are dealing with hot water, which is a much higher sort of energy loading. And if we can work out what the equivalent carbon saving is, which also our customers are keen on because it helps them with reporting requirements, case studies. Reducing administration costs as well, particularly if in your current setup, is if you are being billed and it's just on a site-by-site basis, paper bill. Business Stream offer consolidated billing, electronic billing, which helps to reduce administration costs, and that's something there's been a big take-up of over the last few years across our existing customer base. And finally, understanding usage patterns. Understanding usage patterns better is probably the follow-on stage that you would look to achieve once you've got an initial handle on your water consumption. Business Stream provide AMR, which we'll talk about later on, flow metering services to allow you to carry out a full water mass balance of your site and to understand where water is being used and when. And this sort of more detailed data really helps to identify potentially quite significant savings. This could be in the region of leak detection support, or it could help to identify inefficiencies that you perhaps wouldn't pick up through existing bills and sort of occasional meter reads. So it's about taking a bit more of an in-depth approach to helping you to build a stronger business case. So coming on to that, we've got the sort of wheel here of Business Stream solutions and services. I think today, to keep it relevant to this webinar, we will touch on the water management solutions, the things that you should be looking to do or could potentially do to save water in the run-up to market opening. Nothing to stop you from having a look at these solutions just now. And these cover quite a broad range of services that are widely available and offered by in the marketplace. So under water efficiency, I think there's a key services that we've had a lot of success with. Is certainly smart metering, and again that comes down to developing more detailed data around your consumption. Alternative water is another one that's growing in popularity. Later on, Desmond will round off the presentation by touching on borehole, water and some projects that we've worked on for that. Obviously, we do get involved with a lot of other sort of types like grey water harvesting, rainwater harvesting, and particularly for new builds, this is really attractive. Hits all the right sort of environmental credentials and also can save significant amounts of mains water. Emergency supply is something that we've developed quite prominently in the Scottish market, and this is particularly key for large industrial sites and also kind of high-profile sites like NHS where they need a 24/7 supply and backup supply should anything happen. So it's something that we've certainly worked with as a key service for our customers. Leak detection is another service that we offer and we've had a lot of success with in terms of identifying hidden savings. Again, this has been carried out over a wide range of customers, but particularly for older sites with ageing infrastructure, it's certainly something to look at because there's certainly, over years of a site's existence, pipes will eventually wear, subject to adverse weather conditions, and I'll touch on that later on, but it's certainly something that's worth considering. And finally, engineered solutions, particularly relevant to the industrial market, looking at sort of engineered systems, water recycling, water treatment, wastewater treatment, resulting in significant cost savings. So really the outline of, if I was to design a water efficiency programme for a customer, I would think about where's the best place to start. And in summary, it's starting with data, making sure you have accurate data from which to assess how much you're using and what is the potential that you can realistically save. Obtaining buy-in is key as well within your business if you are looking to deliver on a water efficiency programme and make improvements, and that requires really the buy-in of all key stakeholders, engineering, environmental, people with a facilities interest who will have perhaps a wide knowledge of the water distribution network at your site, and also clearly financial and management staff. If you can build a strong enough business case, then obviously you have a much higher chance of securing the capital investment you need to realise the saving. Validation of potential savings and paybacks would be the next step. So before you look to implement any solutions and make any investment, it's important that you've built a business case around that. And make sure that you have focused technical expertise in your team. In the past, that's where we've come in and delivered for our customers, is provided them with the overall design, advice, counsel, to make sure that they are doing the right things and they're implementing the right solutions for their business. So if you don't have that in-house, then it's something that obviously we can help you out with, and there are other, obviously, suppliers in the market. And I think by combining these factors, it allows you to build a much stronger business case. And it's about sort of small things that you might not think about, like, for example, if you are looking to sort of quantify a water saving, it's important to try and make sure that you quantify all the costs. So think about the cost of treatment, the cost of wastewater, the cost of pumping, and the additional costs associated with hot water. And if you have the data to effectively capture all this and put that in the business case, then 9 times out of 10 you will result in a much lesser payback, a much more accurate business case, which then helps to sort of argue the case for investment. I think the next slide in the next few slides is to start moving on to some of the solutions that we've really seen have had a massive impact within the market and have really helped to deliver some significant savings for our customers. The first of these I'll talk about is AMR. It stands for Automatic Meter Read. And this is something that Business Stream have rolled out progressively over the last few years within our customer base, across both the private and the public sector. AMR devices essentially provide continuous remote logging of meter data, so it negates the sort of need for periodic meter reads, and it's particularly useful when you have water meters that are hard to access. If we can come in, install these devices, install the telemetry to report the reading, then it allows you to view consumption on a continuous basis, and you start to understand the true efficiency or inefficiency, as it may be, of your site's water consumption. I think the big advantage of AMR is that it allows you to quickly identify leaks and inefficiencies. If you look to the sort of example graph below on the slide, you can see that you'll be able to trend sort of prevailing consumption on a very kind of quick basis, 15-minute, 30-minute basis, throughout the day. It allows you to get a feel for peaks and troughs in water consumption. It allows you to identify potential spikes and leaks, which may be a cause of inefficiency, and it allows you to target whether there's actually a zero baseline or if there's an unexplained base load. Again, that will depend on the storage infrastructure you have on your site, but having that data visualised and readily available is really key for identifying savings. This also leads to increased control. As I say, anything you can do to provide a much more confident approach in detecting leaks and making sure that they don't reoccur really reduces business risk as well. So there's many wide-ranging benefits we've achieved through AMR. Moving on to leak detection. This business stream have progressively promoted leak detection, and we've carried out numerous audits over the last few years. And in our experience, it's been the service that's really delivered great savings for our customers. And again, it's about reducing business risk as well as identifying savings, and the leak detection support has really helped to achieve that. I think going back to my earlier point, it's definitely worth considering, particularly if you have an old site, or if you're dealing with a site that uses a large amount of water or a complex network. If there's potentially a lot of underground pipe work on site that you can't access or you don't know the whereabouts, then often a leak detection survey will help you pinpoint the pipe work and then also whether there's actually any inefficiencies or leaks. Certainly in the winter, you obviously see an increase in bursts and leaks due to pipes freezing in adverse weather. And especially for underground pipes, it's often a leak detection survey that's needed to identify the saving. So the key signs is whether you've perhaps had a spike in consumption. If you have AMR installed or you're taking regular meter readings and you notice a difference in an increase in consumption, or even if there's just visual signs like wet areas or areas of growth of vegetation that you weren't aware of before, can also lead to signs of a leak. We use specialist technology which can fairly accurate in pinpointing bursts, so sort of frequency scanning and services frequency equipment. So we found that to be very successful. And it's not invasive until the leak is repaired, so there's no initial disruption to the site, and that's another advantage of the technology. I suppose just as a footnote to that, over the last 5 years within the public sector, Business Stream have saved an equivalent of £10 for every pound spent in leak detection, which shows that often it's leaks that are causing inefficiency across sites, but without the data to verify that and taking time out to investigate it, these savings are often lost. I think the next area would be just some general quick wins on water-saving devices. Just to say, I think there's going to be a poll now as well, so if you look out for that on your screen, you can complete the poll, and I'll just continue. So quick wins would be looking at your water-saving devices to help optimise domestic water consumption first and foremost. For some sites, it may be that the majority of your water use is purely domestic. And for some, obviously, some larger industrial type sites, there's obviously more process-specific water use going that requires more specific attention. But as a rule of thumb, there's certainly some significant savings to be had through optimising domestic water use, particularly if you haven't implemented any water efficiency actions previously. So some key things to consider are obviously the use of water-efficient taps, installation of cistern volume adjusters or dual flush mechanisms. Generally, for most sort of administrative type sites, toilet, urinal flushing and hand washing account for approximately 90% of consumption. So if you address that and you install modern, efficient equipment, then obviously you'll be able to target quite a significant saving. Other fittings are useful as well, like pressure reducing valves, and especially on downcomers where there's like high pressure. and obviously your rhino flush controls are probably generally characterised by a 3 to 6 month payback, so are well worth investing in. And finally, just looking at some of the more complex engineered solutions which, over and above domestic savings, might apply and might be of interest. Groundwater abstraction, Desmond will speak on very shortly. That's a very popular area because obviously if you can establish a borehole at your site with good supply, you will completely eliminate the large swathes of mains water use, and there's obviously large cost savings associated with that, as well as providing contingency as well if you're looking for backup supply. Rainwater harvesting again is something that's popular, particularly for new builds. Water recycling projects, and process optimisation in general is something that I would recommend before sort of rushing into any sort of investment in plan or engineered solution. We do quite a lot of consultancy around actually optimising existing processes, so there may be leaks or flow rates that can be adjusted, and it's important to take a holistic view of your site before progressing with any actions, and that's the approach we try to take. So finally, to minimise risk, it's about making sure that you look after water quality over efficiency, and again, particularly if you are your site is characterised by quite sensitive water use. It could be in healthcare, certain public sector types where we have to sort of follow water quality guidelines. So it's not always about optimising efficiency hand over fist, but water quality has to be respected as well. Consider the impact on water storage. I think that's a general comment that I would recommend to everyone. Before investing in water efficient devices, make sure you understand how that will impact on your water storage, and that whether you manage the risk associated with Legionella accordingly. Focus on non-speciality areas is something that we will do if we're looking at healthcare in particular, where there is a bit more sensitivity around it. Take care with aerated taps and showers. These can deliver quality savings, but obviously they're not suitable for all sites. And finally, adjustable flow devices. Again, we would not recommend for healthcare devices if that's applicable to the audience. So, in summary, the way forward, first of all, establish quality water use data. Continually measure and analyse your data, benchmark your performance, which will then identify opportunities to improve. Make sure you understand the true cost of water. So in addition to your supply cost, make sure you factor in wastewater costs, energy costs associated with hot water, pumping, treatment, if that's applicable to your site, to make sure you build up the strongest business case you can for achieving savings. Obtain stakeholder buy-in and consult with technical experts if necessary. And finally, find the right partner if you need further support to help you deliver these solutions. I'll now hand you back over to Desmond, who will take you through a section on boreholes.
Thank you very much, Paul. As Paul highlighted, that boreholes are probably one of the most popular alternative water sources that we have had to deal with in the past. The main question then is, why a borehole? Ultimately, it is to actually save money. And how do you actually save money? It's actually improved water quality, or rather a better water quality, because with a borehole you have the capability, or rather the option to actually install the relevant water treatment facility that you require based on what you actually need on site. So you are in a position to actually determine the kind of water quality that you actually get. It gives you better control because you know exactly what you use and know exactly how much you're actually getting from the ground. So you'll be in a position to actually determine the amount of water that you're actually abstracting from the borehole itself. And because it's actually locally sourced, it reduces the amount of energy that is expended in actually treating it far away and pumping it to your local, or to your different businesses. So therefore, it actually ticks off some of the sustainability boxes. And as you know, there are price hikes within water companies, and different water companies charging different things. But with your own local supply, you are in a position to predetermine your budget prior to actually going into the next financial year. What do you need to do actually when to actually establish a borehole? First of all, what you have to actually be aware of is that if you are to abstract anything above 20 cubic meters a day, which is about 20,000 liters a day, you would need an abstraction license. And that in itself, if you're in Scotland, it goes through SEPA. But if you're in England, that's the Environmental Agency. They are the same. They basically deal with the protection of water sources and the environment. In terms of starting from a borehole, what you need to understand is what you actually currently use water and what you're actually going to be using it for. I think my colleague Paul has touched on the use of submetering and AMR. So once you establish what you need to use, you're in a better position to actually determine whether a borehole is something that will be useful to yourself. Once you have established that, you need to go through what we call a borehole prognosis. This is a hydrogeological assessment survey, which assesses the amount of water that's available within your local settings. This will give you a better indication in terms of water quality from the ground and how much further treatment you actually need to actually undertake to actually get it to a better standard. In terms of abstraction, I've touched briefly on abstraction licensing. Anything above 20 cubic meters a day will require an abstraction license. Following on from licensing, from the prognosis report, you will get an indication of water quality, which then gives you a better steer in terms of a preliminary design. At this point, we would actually undertake a cost-benefit analysis for yourselves. Business Stream will be in a position to do that for you, giving you an indication in terms of how quickly that borehole will actually pay back. This, depending on the region that you are actually situated in, there are other elements that you have to look into, things like reservation charges. For example, if you want to maintain your water mains as a backup to your borehole supply while you use the borehole as a main source, we will be in a position to advise better ways of reducing the cost burden going forward, and also a payback over a 5-year period. Once everything has been done, including the license application, the design in terms of water quality requirements, we'll go through the process of drilling. We've got a drilling team that will actually help in terms of drilling the borehole itself to the required depth. We undertake a test pumping, which confirms the yields available. We'll also take water samples from the ground to actually ascertain the water quality and therefore validate the preliminary design. And once that has been completed, you go through a process of installation of the borehole headworks as well as the relevant treatment facility, depending on the water quality and commissioning. Because the boreholes are being installed in functioning businesses where you actually have water storage tanks, the installation ensures that you are fully compliant with bylaw standards. This is to make sure that you maintain safety in terms of safe water for your operations, as well as installing the borehole itself, we can offer and can help with the operation and maintenance of the borehole system. Once installed, you will get as installed documentation and all equipment, and we'll go through a process of commissioning and operating the borehole. We will spend some time on site. To actually make sure that the personnel on site is well aware of how to operate the system and how to actually monitor water quality going forward. Once that's done, you then start saving money. At this point in time, we are going to have another poll, which it's already done. Basically, to summarize what we've been saying today is, in terms of market reform, you don't have to wait until 2017. At present, the market is open for all companies that use more than 5 megaliters. 5 megaliters. Although the margins are very minimum at the present moment, what you can do instead of start saving now, you can actually start collating all the information that you need in terms of how much you use, where you use, how much water you use, where you use it, whether that the quality of water required, whether it needs to be potable or it needs to be or otherwise, or grey water, and make relevant adjustments to your processes to make sure that you only pay for and understand you only pay for the potable water that you need. It might well be that some of your water use needs to be grey water, for example, rainwater harvesting, and then basically understanding your full consumption. You have to understand your true cost of consumption, as Paul highlighted, that sometimes water, it's not just the water cost itself, but if it's heated, if it's hot water, there's energy. There are energy costs also to take into account. Building a business case, if it is alternative water sources, you have a cost-benefit analysis that will help you with. If it's water efficiency, will also help with that. And then you look at a total water solution. I mean, and basically choosing a right partner for yourself, not just for the engineered solutions, but for a water supply as well. As I said earlier, 2017 is still a couple of years away, but you can actually test the market at the moment. If you're a multi-site company, you can try switching a couple of your sites and see how the market operates, to give you a better experience when for 2017 when the full market opens. At this point in time, if you want to contact us for any of the things that we have actually discussed today, there are contact details that are on your screens at the moment, and we're open for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Desmond, and thanks, Paul, as well. We've now got a good 10 minutes to go through all the questions which have come in, and maybe one just to begin with. Someone's asking, what are the quick wins for making savings? Desmond, have you got some suggestions around that?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Someone's asking, what are the quick wins for making savings?
Well, quick wins for making savings. I think one of the first things that you need to do is to understand what you are using water for and how much of it you use. Once you understand that, you'll be in a better position to actually evaluate. For example, if you've got a site which is using all of its water as potable mains. In some cases, it doesn't necessarily need to be mains. Take, for example, toilet flushing. That could easily be rainwater harvested supply. For example, if you're like, for example, grocery tray washing, you can implement water recycling to use grey water. It's likewise for lorry washing. For some some of the water usages, they don't necessarily have to be portable. Likewise, as well, if you understand AMR is one big thing, because you actually reduce waste by understanding your baseline and reducing any leakages that's otherwise going on to waste that you actually don't know about. So one, leakage detection, understanding your baseline, and assessing pretty much what you use water for and whether that needs to be portable or not.
I think just to add to Desmond's suggestions there, in my experience, certainly two areas where you will generally always receive a good saving with a reasonable payback are basic cistern volume adjusters on systems and PIR control, infrared automatic flush controls for urinals. They will always generally save a significant amount of water, and they're reasonably easy to access, and they're not too expensive. As a starting point, what I would suggest is to understand, first of all, you can understand consumption by first of all understanding the number of meters that are currently feeding your site, and if they're accessible, start reading your meters, perhaps on a daily or on a weekly basis, and assemble some initial data to understand sort of typical consumption. If you have a site which operates on a particular pattern, so as an example, if you had an office which perhaps ran between Monday 8 a.m. and Friday 5 p.m., if one way to sort of look at potential savings or wastage, or either way to verify there's no wastage, is to perhaps take a meter reading, last thing on a Friday, 5:30, and first thing on Monday morning. Just as an example, to see if there's no sort of illegitimate consumption. If you do identify illegitimate consumption, then it can point to perhaps there is a leak on site, or you might have you might need urinal controls because they're continually filling and flushing. So certainly, as a rule of thumb, I think the cistern volume adjusters and urinal controls are probably a good way to start if you're looking for a quick win. But obviously, there's a range of other solutions there which can achieve further savings.
Great, thanks, Paul. Another question that's come in is, what responsibility do new suppliers have to maintain quality from the point of view of supply? Paul, do you maybe want to pick up on that one?
In terms of water quality, like any sort of water retailer, well, obviously they're purchasing the water from the wholesaler, and then for water quality, if it's from the sort of meter in, the point of use in, then that obviously is the responsibility. But if it's coming from the actual supply itself, then that is for the wholesaler. I think in terms of water quality, it's about making sure that when you sort of go for water efficiency interventions, that it doesn't adversely impact water quality, and to make sure that you work with a supplier that has prior experience in delivering projects. So as an example, if you are looking at water recycling, perhaps for a food production factory in a certain area, you have to make sure you're liaising with hygiene and other staff as appropriate, and that the water quality is maintained, or if you need additional treatment, you make sure that's specified as part of the solution. In the face of it, it looks great if you can make a saving through recycling, but it always has to be, hygiene and health and safety always comes first.
Great, thank you, Paul. Another question that we've got here is, what's the typical payback on alternative water? Desmond, do you maybe want to tackle that one?
Typical payback, well, one of the things, it depends on the volumes that are being used, and I think you have to assess that on a case-by-case basis. First of all, you look at the amount of water that's being used and the potential of amount of water that will be offset using alternative water sources against the level of investment. The level of investment will depend on ultimately on the water quality. So if you're looking at, for example, a borehole, if you use in excess of, say, 600 cubic a year, this can be anywhere in the region of a year to 3 years, depending on the volume and the level of treatment that water actually requires. So to give a one figure fits all is it will be a bit misleading, but that can be assessed on a case-by-case basis.
Great, thank you. Another question here is, given the parlous state of water availability in the most densely populated parts of the UK and the Environment Agency's increasing limitation and strategy on water abstraction, is it sensible to promote increased borehole abstraction? Desmond, do you have a view on that?
I mean, like as I mentioned to start off with, if a company wants to look at a borehole, it's not just an umbrella term to say yes, go for a borehole. You have to, which is one of the reasons why we actually undertake a hydrogeological assessment survey to start off with, to actually assess whether that's reasonably feasible for a client to actually do so. Understandably, there is a limitation, especially if you look in the southeast, where there is a scarcity of water, whether rainfall or underground water. So, in areas where there is enough availability, I mean, we before we actually got to the process of actually implementing a borehole, we liaise with the environmental agency as to whether that's feasible or not. So I think if there is availability of water in that particular region, then we would go ahead and do it. But if not, we would advise customers to that accordingly.
Great. Thank you, Desmond. Paul, I don't know if you want to tackle this one. Someone's asking, where would you find benchmarking data?
There's a variety of benchmarking data out there from certain sources. And about 10 years ago, the UK government and the Department for the Treasury actually launched it was known as the Watermark project, and that was the first ever attempt at really collating detailed water use information across a variety of public sector sites. So we were looking at schools, leisure centres, healthcare, community centres, libraries, museums, and some commercial sites as well. And that was sort of integrated into one report, which I think up to last year was actually available on the Environment Agency website. Now that's since been taken down, but obviously Business Stream, we have a benchmarking tool on our website which collates not just public sector but typical industrial benchmarks from other sources as well. So, I mean, if you're all free to have a look at the Business Stream website and look for our water benchmark calculator. It's just a case of putting in your sector, your current consumption, just to get a steer on how you might be doing. There are other sources there as well. There's CIBSE provide water efficiency benchmarks, I believe, for the hotels and the offices sector. And there are industrial benchmarks available within the IPPC legislation. And I can perhaps provide further details of benchmarks that you wish to use if you want to contact us through the email on your screen. I'd be happy to share some additional sources of benchmarking if that would help you get you started.
Great, thanks, Paul. Another question we've got here is: do you recommend businesses that can switch to do so they can understand how the market could work? Desmond, you maybe want to tackle that one.
At the moment, like I said, we have the market is open for companies that use more than 5 megalitres, and if that's something that each individual wants to actually look at, we'll be happy to sit down and discuss it with them and see how best to actually do it. At the moment, like I said in my presentation earlier, that if you have a site of that nature, start collating the data that's required, understanding your water usage, and then you can approach different water suppliers and to see what you can actually get in terms of a supply contract. If you want to contact Business Stream to inquire about that, you're more than welcome to send your inquiries through the email on the screen. And once the market fully opens in 2017, you're probably in a better position to probably have a tender specification to go out to tender to see who offers the best value for money for your water supply.
Thanks, Desmond. I think we've got time for just one more question. Paul, maybe you want to tackle this, but what's the best way to monitor water efficiency?
I think the key thing is to make sure that you're monitoring water relative to the factors which influence the consumption in the first place. So for industrial sites, you are perhaps wanting to, if possible, collate water consumption data relative to production. For commercial type sites, it might be staff headcount is more appropriate, to develop key performance indicators. And this can be easily tracked even initially on an Excel spreadsheet, profiles drawn and simple graphs, just to make sure that, as an example, I was at a dairy recently, and they'd had obviously a massive spike in consumption, but their production had went through the roof as well. So when you factored that in, it wasn't necessarily a case that they were, water inefficient. They were actually slightly more efficient once we crunched the numbers. But it's about making sure that you have a wider think about the factors that are actually influencing water consumption, and to try and put that into a KPI, and just track it on a consistent basis as well. Even if you're only taking volumetric meter readings, even if you do that on a more regular basis as a starting point, and then from that you will begin to identify whether there's maybe a need for further sub-metering. On that, in addition to the AMR, we also offer sub-meters, but there's also we've got a suite of ultrasonic flow meters that are available, and they're non-invasive. So again, that's the service that we provide, is to come down and measure water flows without actually having to break open any pipes. So there's different ways of doing it, but I think initially it's about understanding consumption on a KPI basis.
Great, thank you, Paul. So that's all we've got time for now, but I'd like to thank Paul and Desmond for their time today and for getting through so many questions, and also for everyone who's joined us for this webinar. Just to remind you all, a recording of the webinar and the presentation slides will be archived on the 2 Degrees platform, and when these go live, I'll send out an email with the links to these, together with your complimentary market reform white paper. Also, an updated version of this white paper is currently being worked on, and we'll also send you a copy of this when it's available, which will be probably in around a month's time. So I hope you all found today interesting and useful, and you'll be able to join us for more webinars in the coming months. So thank you, everyone.